Okay, good afternoon, everybody. This is episode number 67 of the Sports Consiglieres podcast. I'll be brief on this one because I want to spend as much time as we can with our next guest. He recently won an Emmy. I guess he had a great month of August. Won an Emmy, had his jersey retired at the Colorado Rapids, and I believe he's the first U.S. men's national team player to play in 3 World Cups, and now he's capping this off with being a guest on the Sports Consiglieres podcast with Jerry and I. It's our pleasure to introduce U.S. men's national team legend Marcelo Balboa. Marcelo, I can't thank you enough, and thank you for accommodating and coming on the show today.
No, thank you for having me, my friend. So this would let's have some fun.
All right, so here we go. Born in Chicago, but you were Argentinian descent. I guess everything comes back to, I think Jerry and I kind of started this because with the revamp of the Cosmos, we kind of revisited soccer. Jerry's involved with soccer. He's a Red Bull season ticket holder. He coaches soccer. I don't want to steal his thunder, but everything came back. Your dad was a player in NASL and with the Chicago Mustangs. And then how did they find you? How did they find your dad coming from Argentina? So
that's a great freaking question. I never even asked them. They're like, they must have saw him play somewhere, and they gave him a contract. He came out the first year by himself. This next year he came out with my mom, and we were born in Chicago. We went back for 3 years, moved to California, and my dad played semi-pro there with the San Pedro Yugoslavs. They gave him a job, and he played on the weekend, so he must have been pretty decent.
All right, there you go. But I guess it passed down with your genes. But how excited was he in the last World Cup when Argentina won the World Cup?
Listen, Argentinians are Argentinians, right?
Yeah.
So they live and breathe their national team. So I think everybody was overly emotional because they wanted to see the best player in the world win the World Cup. And at that point, if you look at the economy in Argentina, they needed a boost somehow. And this was a huge, huge boost for the economy. It was a huge boost for the country. And we're a year out from the World Cup, less than a year, and Argentina's still celebrating that World Cup. So you win it, you got to enjoy it because you never know when you're going to win it again.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. But for yourself, I guess you were a standout. I guess it won the 1986 Maguire Cup, the under 19 national team. I guess you graduated from Cerritos High School back in '85, and then you took like not a traditional path, I guess, like as an athlete. We've had other athletes on the podcast, but for us, I don't want to call you a pioneer, but you're kind of a pioneer as far as how you got to the U.S. men's national team, from going to junior college to playing like kind of semi-pro ball to, junior college to University of San Diego. So just talk about a little bit about your soccer journey, and I'll pass it along to Jerry. Because
listen, I took every path possible because back then there was no norm. There was no pro league. There was no way to play professional soccer. So I think I hit every avenue possible. High school, they saw me play. I was supposed to go to UCLA. I was 3 units short. And the way their school goes, soccer starts before school. So I couldn't take the 3 units to get into UCLA to get that. San Diego State offered me a full ride, and they had a class that I could take for athletes. There was 3 units that would qualify me to go into San Diego State. But I went from high school to Cerritos Junior College because I didn't want to go. I wanted to play in the Youth World Cup in '87. So I took that time and played basically junior college. Grades were not great, but my grades got me into Cerritos Junior College. I played 2 years there. That got me through the Youth World Cup. From there, they saw me play in the Youth World Cup, Lothar, Siender, Sunil. They invited me right away, right after the Youth World Cup, to the full national team. And since basically the end of '88, '89, I've made a living playing soccer because right place, right time. But there was no norm back then. There was you go to college, and then maybe you go to Europe, maybe you don't, maybe you play in semi-pro leagues, and I played in all the semi-pro leagues possible to give myself a fighting chance.
Almost Again, welcome to the program. I just want to make something clear. I used to have as much hair as you did. I decided to become a Red Bulls fan, so that's where it all went.
Yeah.
So again, you talked about, and it's great that we could kind of segue into this. You talk about Argentinian pride, how they're still celebrating the World Cup. We're in a situation now where, and I think I heard you say this when you were on with Tony, and that you were basically told in '96, which was the first year of MLS, that you had 3 years. Basically, there was money for 3 years. Now we fast forward where, I don't think there's anybody that thought we would be in year 30 with expansion, so on and so forth. And we'll get back to the MLS in one second. But you would think by now, with a 30-year domestic league, that number one, there would be more interest in our national team in the United States, and number two, that the following I think like people, let me say this, people, the Olympics comes on every 4 years and everybody goes crazy. Oh, I want to watch that US athlete, I want to watch Simone Biles, whoever, right? But it's like 4 years and it's like, oh, the World Cup, the US, the US, the US. And I just wanted to know, what do you think is the disconnect with the fact that, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, but 75 years to 100 years, most leagues around the world, we're at 30. So we're comparing EPL, we're comparing Bundesliga, we're comparing ourselves to those leagues when there's a 50-year gap. Think of how far they are. So we're at the infancy of this whole thing. We're moving in the right direction little by little. It's going to take time. Culture in the United States, listen, I grew up, it was football, baseball, basketball. Soccer was that stepchild, you know what I mean? No one really thought about soccer. And over the last 30 years, look how much it's grown. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the other thing is, here in the United States, besides MLS, what other leagues do you watch on the weekends on TV?
Yeah, you have your choice. You have
this is my point. So now,
various cable, right?
So the fans now are comparing EPL, La Liga, Bundesliga compared to MLS, and you can't do that. It's unfair. It's unfair. So little by little, the purse strings are loosening up. We're going out, we're buying. Look what Miami's doing. Look at the players they're bringing in. Eventually, it's going to, little by little, you're going to let the rope go little by little. But we want to make sure that it runs properly. We have a solid foundation. And then eventually we will be like the EPL. We will be like the Bundesliga, because we're going to take it off, and we're going to say, okay, you can spend whatever you want, under these guidelines. So many foreigners, so many Americans. And eventually it's going to loosen up. But it's unfair to compare a league like the EPL to MLS right now. 30 years compared to 75, 80 years. So little by little, we're getting there. But listen, I just tell people the same thing. Give it a chance. You can have more than one team. You can have your EPL team. Listen, I have tons of friends that have River Plate or Boca in Argentina, but they're also fans of the LA Galaxy. But they're also fans of the LAFC because they live in LA. So I'm a big supporter of, we need to support this league, because it's the future for our kids, for our grandkids. And when I'm 80 years old, I want to take my grandkid to go watch the Colorado Rapids play. I want to see them play against LAFC, Miami, and I want big names on the field. So I think it's just unfair that people beat it up a little bit because they want to compare it to leagues that have really no salary cap.
And I agree with your answer wholeheartedly. And I think that's when you get into the MLS bashing, is you can't compare, like you said, MLS to EPL. With that being said, now we can now and again, I think it's a you would agree it has to be parallel, where as MLS does better, right, or as gets more advanced, that obviously is going to help our national team.
Yeah. Listen, if you go around the world, we have some of the best stadiums in the world. And I'm not saying that there are 80,000. We're not going to compare to Barcelona, Real Madrid. But if you look at the infrastructure of what U.S. soccer here in the United States has, the stadiums, the training facilities, state of the art. So now we've spent the money on the right things. Now we need to spend the money on the field, because that's what people want to come to games. They want to see entertainment. They want to see fast flying soccer. They want to see goals. So we're getting to that point, but I mean, we're closing the gap quickly on Liga MX. We're closing the gap on other leagues. Again, little by little, now we've got to start investing the money on the players, on the higher, not the 30-year-olds, maybe the 25, 26, the future that they have. And you start bringing in those kind of players. But again, listen, we went from a league that was American-based, okay, with foreigners sprinkled in, to now a global league because Apple TV came in and you can watch any MLS game anywhere in the world. As long as you have Apple TV, you can watch a game. That's a big bonus for us. That's a big bonus. When you've got teams from Europe and South America coming and recruiting and taking our academy players because they see the potential, that's a good sign. We went from an American league to a global league because, listen, Weston McKinney, Tyler Adams, I mean, you can keep going down the list. Hundreds of players that are playing in big leagues and big teams because they started in American soccer and the scouts found them here. So, listen, I'm always on the positive side. I just feel that we just have to give this league a chance. You know what I mean? You can have more than two teams. You don't have to be just an AC Milan fan and everybody else sucks. That's not reality. You know what I mean?
And I think you hit the nail on the head there. The Apple TV aspect of the MLS, I think, is way bigger than people probably can realize, because the simple fact is when you played, right? I mean, I remember, you go to Giant Stadium, you're playing on the football field, you're going up to New England, you're playing through football lines, so on and so forth. And to go from that now to go where you have basically the whole league on one platform with good pre-post-game and post-game coverage. You can follow your team, unlimited highlights. I mean, that is a big deal. Yeah,
listen, the thing is, it's like anything else, is we had to take progressions little by little by little. We had to find a way to put ourselves all over the world, and we did because ESPN is all over the world. But when Apple put everybody into the same platform, you know exactly where to go. Little tab, MLS, bang, you've got every game, any game you want on there, and I think that's important. And again, listen, we went from playing in the Meadowlands on a turf field, to now look at Red Bull Arena. Come on. Look at Cincinnati. Look at the other day we did the LAFC game versus San Diego. That was, I would say, better than a European atmosphere because of sun. You bring in sun, sold out in the corner. You had all the San Diego fans. You heard them all game. The cheering section from LAFC. So listen, it's getting better. Like I said, I just think people have to give it a chance and just realize that we're 30 years new, not 30 years old, 30 years new.
And now I know one thing that you've been a proponent of is, and I think I'll use your words now, is taking the handcuffs off the fiscal limitations. So now, would you think, do you agree with the following statement that the commissioner and maybe some of the people at MLS, they're very or somewhat apprehensive about kind of blowing the doors off of the salary cap because of what kind of happened with the old NASL, which your dad was a part of. And that's kind of one of the reasons why, that league crumbled, where the big got bigger and the smaller got smaller. So do you think that plays into their decision about doing that?
Listen, we could be afraid of the future or we can embrace it. Okay. Do the teams in England, how many teams spend a lot more than the Wolves or other teams at the bottom of the table? Aston Villa, to the Manchester United, to the Chelseas, do they spend more money?
Yeah.
And how's that league?
Yeah.
Does Real Madrid,
I mean, financially, like to answer your question, financially, you're looking at teams 1 through 8.
Exactly.
And then 9 down. Right.
Exactly. My only thing is limitation on foreigners, because I think we still, the way we develop our kids is, and if you go back to Mexico, how they struggled over the last quite a few years, is because the key positions on each team are played by foreign players, the 10s, the 9s, you know what I mean? So I think there's got to be a little bit of limitation of how many foreigners, even if it's 6 or whatever it is. But when it comes to salary, listen, every team has a different game model, okay? Some are going to spend a lot of money. Some are not going to spend a lot of money. We can't control that, but we want to. We want to control that. Great. But why? Why are we controlling it? You know what I mean? If Miami wants to go buy 2 more players, great. That's their prerogative. If they don't, they're going to have to get rid of 2 or 3 good players, and that means other teams will pick those players up. Everybody has a different game model. But I definitely think that we need to, if we're going to compete with the rest of the world, then we got to loosen up. We got to take the handcuffs off a little bit. Take another notch or two off. I don't know if you want to take them off yet because they're very apprehensive. I get that part, but you gotta loosen them up a little bit more in order to start getting more competition, to get more players to come to this country. And if we're going to compete, like I think a good indicator was the FIFA World Cup of Clubs. That was a good indicator of how far we're behind still. You know what I mean? On salary, on how much they spend on the team, because we got one team that made it out of the group. That's not great for us. But again, I think there's a right way to do it, and there's a controlled way to do it, and it's there. It just like we're talking about changing everything to the rest of the world, so we have the transfer windows are at the same time. I get that part, you know what I mean? But the only way you're going to do it is by try it for a year, right? Try it for a year. If it doesn't work, if fans don't come because it's 6 degrees in Colorado, then you know that the year after that you've got to change things again. But we're at a point where, you know, we can't keep going down this list of we keep talking about changing it, but we've never done anything
right.
about it. So now there comes a point where this would have been the perfect year. Dive in right during the break before the World Cup, half a season, World Cup, end the season. If it doesn't work out, then you go back to what it was a year from now. But I think we've got to, with the calendar, we've got to experiment a little bit. And let's be honest, when you do get a transfer in right now, he has 8 games, maybe 9 games to get adapted to this league before you're already trying to make a run into the playoffs. And I'm not sure that's enough time for a lot of foreign players to come in and get adapted to their surroundings.
Well, I think you just hit another great point. I mean, that's been tried and proven that, you know, look at, you know, way back with Thierry Henry. I mean, most players that have come in, they typically do better in year 2. I mean, that's proven. And, you know, the one thing that I wanted to say is I think, like, you talk about the calendar, because I think I don't want to use the word like legitimacy, but I think it would help the league if they switched to the calendar. And I think if there's ever a time, like you said, to do it, it is now. I think we're at a point now where the discussions are over. It's just a matter of flipping the switch. Whether they do that or not, you know, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, you know, like I said, there's only one way to find out is by trying it. I mean, you got to try to play in November, December, you know, January, February in some of these cold states. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. But at least you tried to see how it goes. Because, I mean, listen, so let's be honest, summer is a good window because there's no basketball, there's no there's only baseball, there's no hockey, there's no NFL. Once we move into September, October, when we start our season, what happens? You get into NFL season, you get into college football. So I understand, listen, I totally get why we're doing summer. I get it. But if we're going to compete with the rest of the world and we're going to be able to get a transfer at the beginning of the year that can play the whole year, not halfway during the season, we've got to experiment a little bit. So why not experiment now? That's my thought. The worst case scenario, we can always go back. You can always go back. But right now, I think that there's been so much talk. And I think probably 75% of the coaches would be, or even more, would be okay with moving our calendar year to Europe. Owners, I don't know. I mean, that's a big step. You know, I mean, how much money are you going to lose in ticket sales? You know, I mean, how much money this? So there's a balance. There's a balance, but we're not in that loop, unfortunately. But everybody that I talk to, when I'm traveling around doing the games for Apple, everybody would love to see this league go and try the European calendar.
Right, and I think with that being said, another level of competition, if you will, is, correct me if I'm wrong, but when the playoffs would kick in for MLS, if they went to the European calendar, that would be simultaneous when the NBA and NHL playoffs would start as well. So, you know, that's another factor. But is there really ever a good time?
Yeah, but listen, we're not looking to compete with NBA, or let's be honest, how can you compare with the NFL? That's a marketing machine. You can't mess with that. But you know what, though? Soccer is the biggest sport in the world. No matter what anybody says, soccer is the biggest sport in the world. And the biggest sporting event in the world is the World Cup, the Olympics. So we've got to find our way to make ourselves adaptable to that. And that's what I feel that we need to do, is we need to give our team teams an opportunity to fight at the highest level possible. And that's at the FIFA World Cup. I mean, the FIFA World Cup, the FIFA Club World Cup. So, you know what I mean? And yeah, so you got to play in January, December, but you know what? It's not like we're not doing preseason anyway. And you know what I mean? At that point. So like I said, I think there's a happy medium. We just have to take that leap. We've got to try. We've got to try, because I think that if we take that step, that could catapult us to that next level.
And you're okay with the playoffs still being in play?
Listen, I'm a fan of the playoffs. It's an American tradition. We always have that. So I'm a big fan of that. But at the end of the day, listen, you can't worry about the NBA Finals. You can't worry about the World Series. You can't worry about the Super Bowl. It is what it is. You know, they don't worry about our sport. They don't worry, but they do their thing. We have to do what's best for our sport, because, like I said, this sport has more fans in the U.S. than you'll ever see, because be it immigrants that come to this country, whatever, you move to this country, you see everybody in the world besides here, the number one sport is soccer. They live it, they breathe it, they have their club teams. So, you know what? Like I said, it's coming, and that big wave is coming. I think it also depends a lot on what the national team does in 2026. That's going to be a huge, either a big boost for us, the lift off, or it's going to be a little bit of a regression because they didn't do well. So I think there's a lot of pressure on this 2026 team.
Go ahead, Jerry. Go ahead, Jerry.
Say, Marcelo, Jimmy's trying to pick an MLS club to support. I'm really talking him out becoming a Red Bulls fan for his sanity.
Are you both in Jersey?
Yes, we are.
Then you should support the New Jersey Red Bulls.
You talk about stadiums. That's a great place to see a game, though. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's easy to get to, mass transportation, and start to have a following. So, but do you feel like some of the players? I mean, you yourself, just doing research for the show, you almost got missed. It seemed like after '94, and I guess we'll get the '94 World Cup team. Like some of the players are being missed. Like Jerry and I both grew up in an immigrant, so we kind of grew up with soccer players, and then parents played, dad played, wherever else. So and talk about the '94 team. I mean, we watch it in Spanish. I watch it with my friend who was Colombian, who Andres Cantor, before he was popular, because it was just it was an exciting game. But do you feel like is it scouting, or like some of these players they made the U.S. national team made a mission to kind of get those players that were getting missed from the immigrant community, but it just seems like they're kind of falling through the cracks. I mean, a lot of these players they're finding them in college. Is it scouting, or is it finance, or like is it or I could be wrong. So
listen, I think that there are scouts all over the place looking for players. Yeah. I think the biggest thing that happened is we took 2 steps backwards from that. From the World Cup team that didn't qualify, the Bruce Arena, that last era that was there, we didn't go to Russia. So I think that opened up a lot of people's eyes. And what I mean by that is that older generation didn't get the job done. And that you have to blame on U.S. Soccer and the team, because we never went out and kept on looking for these younger players. We were okay with whatever team was there. The older guys, we just kept on sticking to the veterans. They'll get us there. We should qualify anyway. And biggest failure in U.S. soccer history is that group, because they had every opportunity to qualify and they didn't do it. So from that day on, they brought in a whole new group. They got rid of that veteran group and they brought in younger players. And look who we found through that younger players. Think about it. All those younger players were getting an opportunity to play. The Tyler Adams, all of these guys were getting an opportunity to play, something we should have been doing anyway. Just like this group. This group is going to age out in the next, 2 World Cups. We should have a bunch of kids. Every year we should have 2 or 3 young kids on those teams. So we keep it between, you got to have a balance between the veterans and the younger players. So when you look at it, sometimes you got to take 2 steps backwards, or a step backwards to take 2 steps forwards. And that's what we did. Okay. But now we've looked at players and they do great in their club team. They do great here. But when they get to a national team, it's a different level. One, that shirt weighs on you. It does. No matter what people say, it's a special shirt to put on, man. It means the world to everybody to put on a U.S. national team jersey. And sometimes it's too much pressure for an athlete. It weighs too much for them. They can't live up to the expectation. And if you look around, we've had quite a few guys who have been stars in MLS, but it hasn't transitioned over to a national team. It's much faster, it's much quicker, it's much stronger, and you have to be able to adapt to that. So I think that we've looked around, and we're not doing a bad job, but we are finding players throughout the inner city leagues that are being ranked up through the 15s, the 16s, the 18s, the 20s. But again, it's not easy taking that leap from playing your age group to now you're 21 and you're playing against 30-year-old men. That's a different ballgame. It takes a special player. And I think that we're finding those kind of players. Look at the Sullivans. We're finding those types of players. But listen, it's not an exact science. It's not easy to find a talent. It's not easy to find a talent that can adapt himself to a new team. He's comfortable in his environment. Once you take him out of his environment, now he's nervous. He's scared. He doesn't play the way he normally plays. So there's a lot of factors that go into scouting a player. But I think that you look at this group right now, they're trying to find more and more, and they're trying to integrate more players to put pressure on this team, because listen, the more competition you have on your team, the better you make that team. So right. I think that we'll find out. We'll find out in about 10 months from now where this team is at.
Yeah. But how big was that Caligari goal? Because I read that in a magazine. I don't think it was even broadcast, that game against Trinidad and Tobago, for you to. And do you feel like the thumb was on the scale for you guys to win that game? Because I know you had a couple calls that probably were favorable, that they wanted the U.S. to kind of propel you. But how big was that Paul Caligari? Because he was an older guy, and I guess he was probably playing. He was probably the only person that was playing professionally. So
Caligari's goal was shocking. It is one of the most crucial goals in U.S. soccer history, because we haven't qualified in 40 years, and with that goal, we qualified. Do I feel that the referees were a little bit lenient towards the U.S. because we were going to host the World Cup, and if we didn't make the 90 World Cup, it would have looked kind of a little foolish, you know what I mean? Yeah. But listen, I'm not going to take credit away from the team that was there. They did everything they did to win, and when God is on your side, sometimes things happen. And I have a feeling that God was on our side that night. We got out of there, we qualified, and look at us where we are now. We've got our own pro league. We've got national team players playing at the highest level possible, winning Champions League, playing in the Bundesliga, playing in Serie A. So, you know what? We're moving completely in the right direction. We just have to keep moving.
And just turn it to the 94 season. I mean, we have, Jerry and I are from New Jersey, so a lot of players, like, you had John Harkes from Kearney, you had Tab Ramos, you had Tony Miola from Kearney, you had I think Peter Vermeer. So you had a Jersey. Alexi Lalas played at Rutgers. Yeah. So there was a lot of eyes on it. But like, for you, how was the feeling for you to represent the United States in your own country with that uniform on? You touched on it a little bit, but how playing in front of your home country? I mean, how was that?
Listen, I to play in one World Cup as an American was a thrill, because I mean, we knew once we had the World Cup, you had an opportunity, we'll say, to play in that World Cup at home. But but for me, it was a lot different than for other guys, because I tore my ACL in '93 playing against Iceland at a football stadium in Orange County. So I'd be honest with you, I thought my World Cup dream was done, to play in a World Cup at home. But I had 10 months to get myself ready. I went through surgery right away. I went through depression. I didn't want to get my ass out of bed. Fernando Clavijo basically saved me. God rest his soul. He basically went to my house after about a week or two and basically said, get your ass out of bed. I'm not going to go to this World Cup without you. So I will be here every day to pick your ass up and get your ass out of the house. And from that day on, I worked my ass off. I worked my ass off twice a day, every day. That surgery took a year to come back from at that point. This was 90. Remember, This was 93. And I made it back in 6 months. Bora didn't play me. And I tell you what my motivation was. We were working out in the equipment room, in the gym. And the coach's office was on the way through to go to our locker room. I started walking through and I heard my name in the background. And so I stopped, you know what I mean? And I heard the coaches, because you can tell Bora's voice very distinctly compared to the assistant coaches. My name is Bora, B-O-R-A, you know what I mean? And I heard the assistant coaches basically trying to get me kicked off the team. Very clearly, he's not going to make it back in time. Why are we holding on to him? We need to find somebody that's going to replace him and that's going to be able to play. So when I heard that, and that was about a month and a half into my rehab, I told Fernando. And from that day on, it was 2-a-days, 3-a-days. It was on the I would work out at the gym. I'd go home and do my squats. Afternoon, I'd go on a bike ride in the mountains. Okay. So for almost 5 months, 4.5 months, 3 times a day, they were draining my knee from all the excess fluid I was having in there. And I was going to prove those assholes wrong. You know what I mean? And listen, at that time, that's the way I felt. Now, it is what it is. But Bora said no. Bora said no. He goes, I believe he's going to make it back, and I'm going to stay with him. So, and I tell you this, the hard part is I made it back, and Bora played me in 2 games, and I played awful. I mean, first game back, I was terrible. I think it was against Sweden, I think it was. I played awful, absolutely awful. So now we get close to the World Cup. He doesn't take me to Seattle on turf. He doesn't play me against Mexico in the last game at the Rose Bowl before the World Cup. So I thought to myself, okay, I'm going to make the team, but I'm going to be riding the pine. And then the night before the World Cup, Bora took us to the Silverdome. First game ever played in an indoor stadium. And we all held hands at the 18 and walked towards the big Jumbotron. And Bora put up a video, motivational video of all the players that made the team. And as soon as that was done, he put his arm around me and he says, tomorrow you start. Tomorrow's your day. For all the hard work, tomorrow's your day. And whoo, tears everywhere, man. Tears everywhere. Because I thought 100% that was just going to be a role player. When they needed something, if they needed another forward that can jump. But Bora stuck with me. And Bora gave me the opportunity. Not the other coaches, Bora. And that was that story. But listen, that 94 team had characters, personalities. They had great players that everybody talks about them, but no one really knows. Like we say, hey, Landon's the best player. No way. Go look at Tab Ramos. Go look what he did in Sevilla. Look what he did in MLS. If there was social media, you'd be like, holy crap, that's Tab. That dude played for us. That's how good Tab was. You know what I mean? So again, listen, no disrespect. I put Tab, I put Clint Dempsey in that same category. Creative, difficult to mark, always moving, trying to get in behind, trying to score goals. So, but that 94 team was special, man. Special because of the fact that we lived together, we trained together, we did everything together for 3 years to get ready for that World Cup.
And you got paid $18,000 for it too. So
and we got paid $18,000. That's all right. I would have paid to play the World Cup, brother.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I'd be right there with you. So but how far the game has come. So from 94, and that 94 team is definitely special because I think that first of all, for sporting, it was a big in the New York area. It's big sporting. Yeah, the Knicks, the World Cup, the O.J. Simpson chase. You had a lot going on that summer, but I think that from that point, like 94 definitely propelled, football or soccer onto the mainstream. Yeah.
Well, remember that was the first time the U.S. was ever going to host a World Cup. I don't think in 94, from 90 to 94, not a lot of people knew about the World Cup. They didn't know what it was. I think a lot of people went and bought tickets because they wanted to see what it was. You know what I mean? Because you didn't get to see a lot of the World Cup in 90 on your TV in the United States. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think that people were interested to see what the biggest event in the world was. And it was spectacular. It was the most attended. It was the most watched. It was absolutely fantastic of what people thought we could host and what we did. Games were sold out. TV ratings were fantastic. The only downside every once in a while, and the weather, 90-something degrees. But now the good thing is, listen, we didn't get hydration breaks back in the old days. We played against Colombia, and it was hot as hell. It was. I remember we heard some people had heat stroke in the stands. They had a, you know what I mean? So that was probably the only side, but there was no hydration break. We played right through that. There was no, you know what I mean? So they're different times, but like I said, I think that's why you see the World Cup back in the US, Mexico, and Canada, because I think that they're going to, again, it's going to be spectacular. It's going to be a party. Now we just have to make sure our team shows up to the party, physically and mentally ready to play.
No, again, just to make one point, the 94 team definitely put it on the map. And for me personally, I remember I was a year removed from high school. And I remember right before the World Cup, Macy's had a huge display of all the gear, and they had it by country. And I was like, wow, this is, this is a big deal. Being 18, 17, 18, I was like, wow, this is a big deal. So, I mean, again, kudos to that group. I know Alexei Lalas said he was the best player on the 94 team. I think he still maintains that. So, but anyway, switching back domestically, what is your take? Because again, it just seems sometimes, in the United States, when it comes to soccer, it's a little discombobulated, if you will. Now you have USL, pretty much is going to be they're talking about a pro-rel system. How does that going to affect their relationship with MLS? What do you think what do you see transpiring in the next few years?
Listen, first, you can't have 2 Division I leagues in one country. So we know that's not going to happen. It doesn't happen anywhere in the world. So USL will be second division. They'll have their promotion and relegation. I think it's great. The problem you have is when you buy an MLS franchise, when you look at San Diego, let's say, right, $500 million.
Mm-hmm.
A USL franchise costs how much?
I couldn't even begin to guess.
I don't know.
Maybe 20?
I was going to say under 35.
Yeah, okay, under 30. Now, if you're an MLS team, are you okay with promotion relegation with a team that spent 30 grand compared to your 500 million? No. Yeah. So listen, I think there's room for promotion relegation. I think this country is such soccer fanatics that you're going to see MLS have more expansion teams. And then eventually, yes, I think you will have a promotion relegation, but I also think in 10 years from now, 15 years now, we could mix with Liga MX and we could have a first division and a second division. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of possibilities. So listen, I think every league has to do what's best for them, but we still have to work together because MLS and USL are both trying to build more fan base. They're trying to build soccer in this country. So we can't butt heads. We can't all of a sudden start dividing everybody. So I think that little by little, they'll find a common ground and work together to make what we want is this very competitive first division MLS that's competing with other teams around the world, that's competing for a FIFA World Cup of clubs. Those are the kind of things that we're looking for. So I don't think we all have the same goal. We all want to see from the women's league to the MLS to the USL, men and women, everything. We all want to see soccer grow. So if we start pulling at each other and start bad-mouthing each other, that's not the energy that we're looking for, that we need. Everybody has a place in this country, but how do we make soccer eventually the number one sport? That's the way we have to look at it this way.
So you think, what would you say would be a realistic cap, if you will, for expansion for MLS? Like,
that's a great question. I think 30 teams right now, it's like, whew, you know what I mean? So I think eventually you could see it like the NFL, 4 divisions, you know what I mean? They compete with each other, and then at the end you have the winners of each division. There's your semifinal. You know what I mean? There's plenty of ways you can do this. It just depends on how big you want to make it, how many states are interested. Because listen, you know that people want an expansion team. They see the future. Listen, San Diego saw the future of what soccer is going to be in this country. Phil Anschutz, Lamar Hunt, and the Crafts saw that in '96, and that's why they invested their money. And now look at them. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
I think when you look at the big picture, the upside of soccer in this country is huge, and people want to get involved. So I think you're going to see a few more expansion teams probably in the next 5 years coming into this place. I don't think you can cap it. You can't say this, but I think geographically you have to figure out 4 divisions, you know what I mean, or 3 divisions. I would say 4, 2 and 2, the top 2 go, you know what I mean? So I think there's a way of making it better, but we got to think outside the box. You know what I mean? We can't just keep going. Like one year we did the top 8 teams, doesn't matter where you're at, the best 8 teams go, and then you match up. It was kind of a weird, and then we went back to the East and West. So I think that, like I said, there's a place. I don't think there's a place for what you see in the EPL where there's the winner of the league is the winner. We here in this country like playoffs. We're used to playoffs. And everybody enjoys those playoffs. So I don't see us ever going to that again.
Now, along those lines, do you think that, I mean, you're talking about, expansion, here's the thing with expansion. And by the way, the price of an MLS franchise, I mean, that should say enough how well the league is doing. I think the fact that it's, what San Diego paid. But do you think, like, the Apple, where I'm going with my question is, what I miss as a fan. So I'm a Red Bulls fan. What I miss is the regional coverage on MSG with Steve Cangelosi, Shep Messing. So do you think with expansion, I mean, and everything, the way the league is going, that they're really never going to come off the Apple platform?
Listen, right now, it's funny. We ask for a lot of things, and when we get it, then a lot of people complain about it. I mean, we've been asking for a big deal. We've been asking for a big platform. We've been asking for everything to be under one, right? And when we get it with Apple, then everybody starts picking it apart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's what drives me a little cuckoo sometimes, is we ask for things, and then when we give it to them, then they find the negative. Tell me the negatives about Apple. Listen, they put a lot of money into this league. They see the future of this league. Right. They put it on Apple. So listen, they're always going to be bonus. I mean, give and take of what's good and what's bad. We always seem to focus on the bad, and that's sad. I'm not a big fan of our saying is, I don't need to blow your candle out to make mine look brighter. You know what I'm saying? Right. So listen, the Apple deal's been great. Let's be honest. Right. It's a lot of money. It's people are on TV every day. You can still get the broadcast. If you flip over to the radios, you can get the local broadcast on Apple. Yeah. So listen, is it perfect? Nothing's perfect. So we can't go by that. But like I said, what company came in for 10 years at that kind of price? No one. Right. And now after Apple's done that, look what Netflix did. Netflix went and bought the Women's World Cup. Yeah. Right. So you see what I'm saying? So listen, I think you have to dabble a little here and there to open up a bigger platform. I think Apple's going to go big in other sports and in soccer. So at the end of the day, you know what? It was a good deal at the time. And you look at it now, we're 4 years in, it's still a good deal. So again, not everything's perfect. But I didn't see anybody else offering the money that Apple did when the league deal was up. Yeah,
and I think what Apple did a good job too is they actually recruited the talent that was around the league, the Steve Cangelosis, the Mac. I mean, there's a whole bunch of guys that they brought in, and like you said, how many platforms that you could see every game, including the playoffs.
Yeah.
Listen, it's not like you've got to bounce back and forth. You click on your MLS, it tells you to the game. That game's over. You flip over to the next game on Apple. You click on that. You've got the pregame show, English, Spanish. You got 360. Right. So again, sometimes we ask for things, and when we get them, we're not happy. Sometimes it makes no sense to me. But like I said, man, it's in this world. Sometimes it's too easy to find the negative things, and it's a much harder thing to find a positive thing. So this is a positive thing for this league.
Yeah, well, very well.
And my last question for you is, and I'll swing it back over to Jimmy. Is I have to ask you this: who was your favorite player that you played with?
My favorite player that I play with, I got to say, I've been blessed enough that, think about it, I got to play with Tony Meola almost my whole career, except for MLS. I got to play with Lexi Lawless. I got to play with Tab Ramos. I got to play with John Harkes. Pretty much my whole Caligieri. Think of all these guys that were pioneers. Yeah. Eric Winalda was my roommate in college. We played on the national team together. You know what I mean? Guys in Colorado. I got to play with Sean Bartlett, who represented South Africa. You know what I mean? It's like I've been blessed. My best friend was Fernando Clavijo. And unfortunately, he passed away from cancer quite a few years ago. But he was probably my best friend, almost a second father to me, took care of me, taught me how to be a pro, because I got to a point where I was playing all the games. I got a little, like we all do, overconfident. He brought me back down to earth. But, man, listen, playing with Lexi was the best player in the 94 World Cup in his head, and he was only that good because I made him good. So we'll leave it at that. Whatever you think, Lexi, you're only as good as I was, and I'm only as good as you were. So we're good.
I'm a big Lawless fan, so I'm one of the few Red Bull fans that still likes Alexei Lawless. So leave it at that.
Listen, the Red Bull fans hate me. I got traded there. I was hurt. I never got to play but 13 minutes. I felt so bad in my last year because I got hurt. They did an awful job on my surgery here in Colorado. The doctor gave me a bone bruise. And I think I played 13 minutes, unfortunately. Just could never get that bone bruise to go away. It took almost a full year. So, yeah, man, I felt bad. It was my last year playing, and I played there, and I felt bad because I never got to show the fans what I could do.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, I think nobody's going to wear number 17 in Colorado. So I think that's you left your legacy in Colorado, and you're still involved with the club. But Marcelo, I can't thank you enough for the time, and this has been a real treat for us seeing you play in the '94. It brings back a lot of memories, and obviously, Jerry did his research on the show. But I just wanted to thank you for your time, and thank you for accommodating us with everything else. I know you're kind of in between things, but I really appreciate you giving the time. With that being said, this episode was produced by Dave Sturcio. I always pass this along to Jerry for his parting words. Chop Sports Media, Dave Sturcio, but Jerry, you can take this one out. But Marcelo, I can't thank you enough, and really treat for us. So, and we'd love to have you back on again. So.
First up, thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And you have my number whenever you want to chat. Feel free to text me, and we'll chat.
All right.
Sounds good. Again, Marcelo, thank you for really joining us here. It was great to get your inside MLS on the national team. Like Jimmy said, that wraps up this episode with U.S. men's national team legend and Colorado Rapids retired number 17, Marcelo Balboa. Take care, and we'll see everybody soon. Thanks again.